She's Guinea, and we are from Guinea's Planet. And today we have with us Dr. Hannah.
Hi, hi.
Okay, good to have you here. Before you say anything, I'm just going to say two lines briefly about you and about why we are meeting today. So, this is Research for Everyone series. In Research for Everyone, we simplify the PhD research. So, all the findings and heavy stuff that you hear when people talk about their PhDs, in this conversation, the rule is keep it simple so that everybody understands as far as possible. Uh, so Hannah is here. Hannah has done her PhD in sociology from JNU, and she's done other researches also. She's also working at a not-for-profit organization right now. But today's conversation is more about her research. So Hannah, tell us about your research. What was that about?
First of all, thank you, Shweta, for this opportunity. I hope I reach out well to all the listeners today. Um, my research, like my PhD title, is Efficacy in Cancer Treatment, a study of physician, caregiver, and patient narratives in Kerala. It sounds heavy. Let me try to simplify it. So, first of all, let me just put it out there, few definitions of few words. So, what is cancer? We hear cancer, but it's a condition, or we can say it's a sickness where our cells grow out of control, and there could be tumors, or there could be abnormal growth of cells, and cancer treatment simply try to arrest these growths. So
Correctly. So you're saying our body is made up of cells, and when there is unwanted growth, the growth we should not be expecting, if that happens, that could be cancer. And treatment is supposed to stop or reduce the growth of these unwanted cells that happens.
yeah, that's to put it very simply, yes. And called efficacy. So, what is efficacy? Efficacy, we often hear uh, it is used in clinical or in medical terms to understand the optimum results that we can get out of a drug, a medicine, or a treatment. But what I am trying to understand is it's usually dealt with medical experts or clinicians, but how do patients see it? How do caregivers see it? They face the effect of these treatments or these drugs or medicine on a daily basis. Even their caregivers. What are caregivers? Who are caregivers? Caregivers are those who help these cancer patients. They could be professionally giving care, or they could be family members. One thing to remember is in India, most of the majority of the caregivers are family members of the patients itself. So how do they conceive this like when we tell, oh, this medicine is very effective or medicine is very efficacious, what do the person who got affected by this treatment or this medicine, how do they see this efficacy? What do they have to? So my study tries to add more dimension to this concept of efficacy.
Right. So if I have, okay. So Hannah, I mean, what brought you to this research topic? Because everybody chooses their research topic. What made you choose this?
Yeah, it comes from a personal experience. First of all, my mother had cancer, and I had been with her in hospitals, and being with her while she was taking treatments and all. So we often in cancer wards and in hospital, we often hear, oh, the all the treatment was done for the cancer patient. Everything which was available was done, but the person didn't get any relief. So a lot of people say this, that oh, because of the treatment I had to suffer more. So there are these different dimensions to these, like, cancer treatment. So I also had many questions regarding this, and I'm also a person who's been involved in policy studies, and public health was a great interest to me. So then when it came to my PhD, then I was thinking about this topic from my personal experience, and also this is something I wanted to get more answers from. So I definitely went and chose this topic from a PhD.
Okay, so let's go to the next question, which is that you wanted to study efficacy. Um, and you were doing this in Kerala with patients, with caregivers, and with physicians who are involved in this treatment. So how did you go around collecting the information that you wanted to collect? Like, what did you do?
Okay. Before answering that, I also wanted to add one point that it's not only the how treatment affected them, but also how their surrounding, how is their how do they conceive their work, their family life, their socio-cultural surrounding after being a patient. So that was also main part of my study. So how did I go about it? I did a pilot study in Kerala, chose three different hospitals. One was public, one was private, one was charity-based hospital, and also visited patients in their homes. It was mainly to understand because people come from different backgrounds, they are from different economic sections. So what are the criterias they keep in mind while they're choosing a treatment or a hospital? So I had to take these different hospitals, and how I did it, I also trained for uh, being a volunteer for palliative care. So let me also say what is palliative care. Palliative care is it's a process where more assistance is given to patients while who are who are mainly in the advanced stage of disease, who are having very great disease, or patient who is suffering with a lot of pain. So their uh, physical requirement is taken care of, but also their emotional, mental, their day-to-day life, their spiritual assistance to their spiritual need. Like it is a total care given to them, so they could have some sort of relief from their pain. So that is mainly like palliative care. It is given to many patients who have not only cancer but to many other disease. So yeah, coming back to how I did it, um, I attached myself to a hospital. I almost did research work for field work for 1 year, where I spent like my time among these three hospitals, and along with doctors, I was visiting patients and I got permission to visit patients. So I immersed myself in those hospital on a daily basis. So I could familiarize with patients, get familiarized with their caregivers, and also physicians. And how I did it, I had definitely, we as a researcher, we go with a set of questions, but here in such a situation as a hospital ward, it was mainly an open-ended question where I took the narratives of the patients, I took the narratives of the caregivers, and whenever I wanted a respond to one particular question, then I directed them by asking certain points. So the narratives were collected from all these patients, all these caregivers, and also physicians. In total, I had 38 interviews uh, uh, spanning in these three categories. But there are such 8 interviews where three of them came together on one particular patient. Like there's a patient, there is a caregiver, and the physician. All of them could discuss and talk about one particular uh, case. So case studies were also used. So these are some of the methodologies, some of the ways I applied in the field.
Okay. So, so I remember one of the things that you said last time when we spoke was that you said that you chose Kerala also because you were trying to gather narratives, what people think, what they feel, their experiences in their language, and you felt that being from Kerala yourself, the language barrier will not be there, and therefore you would be able to capture the nuances of what was going on. Um,
Absolutely, yes. That was very critical because, as a first research study, when it comes to patient narratives and illness narratives, especially, there's a lot of emotions, there's a lot of personal stories, personal moments that they share with all the trust. And sometimes even a grunt of the patient can mean something. So, it was very important for me not to get it lost while I am translating it. So, I found it. Extremely important to understand that in all sense, like how do they talk, what are the emotions also. So while I am from Kerala and my mother tongue is in Malayalam, I had more confidence in going out there and handling this illness narratives because it's the same language, and I could ensure that not I wouldn't say ensure, but I could grasp it at the max if as it was in the same language.
Right, right. And also probably like give an appropriate response where required because you could understand.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Okay. So we'll come to your personal experience of doing this research, I think, after the next question that I have. So the next question, can you just describe the key findings in this research, I mean, that you did over the
Um, Out of many findings, I would summarize few findings here. So I understood that from the field, it was very clear that the parameters of efficacy, which I was discussing about, that varied from different stages of cancer of the patients. So in cancer, there are four stages: one, two, three, and four, and it is categorized with the severity of the tumor or the cancer in the patient. So during these different stages, so there are stages where you can't do any treatment. So how patients define efficacy, it varied from one stage to the other stage. So and that is according to them, but maybe clinical or medical definitions of efficacy, then we could see it was restricted to the treatment alone. So patients definitely did add more dimension to those concept of efficacy uh, according to the stages of cancer they were in. So that was one key finding. And another one was the potential of illness narrative as a tool to inform public health policies. Like with illness narratives, it was interesting to see how that a public health policy, we can make it much more stronger by bringing this individual stories or individual patients information. So public health policies, for example, if a palliative care policy is formulated by one particular state, these illness narratives from cancer patients or patients who have paralysis, all of them enrich that public health policy. And it is not only from public health officials that is coming, it is also coming from the patients. Uh, Another finding was the relevance of discussing end of life care. That is another aspect where we discuss mostly patients who are in their advanced stage, or who have diseases which is not able to, where they not where they have no options of treatment or medicine, they are not able to recover. They might be awaiting, I mean, death could be the only like death will be the next stage. But having these conversations, they could be conversations like good death, bad death. What do they need? Do they need to stay in hospital till they can't what do you say they can't bear it anymore, or they want to go to their home? What are their thoughts? Patients usually, when it comes to, usually the caregivers or the family members or the doctors take decision for them. So such conversation wasn't encouraged. There is no formal structure to have such, or even doctors are not taking up this responsibility. So that is lacking. Another finding was that how these kind of palliative care, end of life care, these kind of holistic care treatment, it's not taught even in the medical colleges. So a lot of junior doctors or house surgeon students who are training for being a doctor after their college, they were admitting that how they were not taught in the college regarding palliative care or these kind of holistic care approach. So that I think is very critical, and it was bit shocking to hear that they are not even taught during the experience of practicing. They might come across all this, but it's not in the curriculum, in the medical curriculum. That was another finding. These were few of the key findings I'm sharing here.
Right. Thank you, Hannah. So I want to go back to the first finding that you shared, how at different stages of cancer, people had different views or different perspectives about efficacy and how they defined it. Can you share some examples so that we can understand that better?
Yeah, for example, in the first stage, there are many treatment protocols or many medicines, drugs which are prescribed. And but when it comes to like third stage, like um, physicians still might prescribe these medicines. So physicians might go ahead with the treatment. But then there is a patient's decision, patient's understanding, and some of the patients are very clear because some of these treatments are very painful. So they're very clear. They're very clear. They don't want to go ahead with it. So it is coming from their thought process, their cognitions that they are evaluating their pain and effectiveness of the drugs, etc. And they suggest or they tell that they are not going. They take a firm decision. So this never happens in the first stage because they think that with coming to the hospital, getting that medicine, they are going to get a cure. Sometimes they might not, sometimes they do. But with these different stages, the perception, how the patient handle these treatments and the advice of the doctors also changes with these different stages.
Right. And what perspectives were you gathering from the caregivers? What were they saying about their experience and them taking care of themselves?
Yeah, from caregivers and also patients to some extent, like they threw a lot, throw light on their everyday difficulties, everyday reality of having a cancer patient in their house, or dealing or living with a cancer patient, providing care on 24/7, how it's affecting their work life, how it's affecting their education. So these kind of their social realities change when a family is getting affected with this illness. So that kind of insights into that everyday experience of even patients and caregivers was very enriching. We see how even the society changes their attitude sometimes towards them, and how the importance of economic stability. So how, because they don't have economic stability, how the family suffers. So they brought in the whole economic social impact, the implication of being a cancer patient and being having a patient in their family.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So, because, like you said, that this topic was linked with your personal experience, of your mother having cancer. So, and the kind of narratives that you must be listening to would be very difficult as well. So, can you tell us what were the difficulties or challenges that you faced? And also, how were you taking care of yourself? So, I have like, these are two questions.
Uh, Definitely being in that situation where you are seeing a lot of people, they're going through pain and suffering. That was very emotionally draining. But I would say having having that experience where I spent time with my mother and or the hospital or going through that experience actually strengthened me to in the field to face such kind of situation. Otherwise, I think I would have never gone out to do this research. So that actually, I agree, it was emotionally draining, but it also gave me that strength to counter such situations. And another challenge was because cancer patients, they were some of the informants. They when I talk to them on one day, and the next day when I go to the hospital, they are not there because they're not there because they passed away. So that could affect in a very emotional level. That was initially it was very difficult to deal with, but that was one of the biggest challenges I faced. And how I took care of myself, I understood it was important to withdraw sometimes from the field completely. So I spend long time in the field, but there are times where I withdrew and I didn't think about the research. Maybe there were other readings and studies going on, but I withdrew from field. That helped me a little bit to get that objectivity, put me into a place where I am looking at things objectively. So that helped. Timely withdrawal from the field.
Right. And I think that's also a very useful tip for any researcher who is dealing with uh, like very sensitive themes where you might have to be with people in their very difficult circumstances as well. And it is going to impact the researcher as well. So withdrawing from the field, taking those breaks are very important for everybody, including researchers, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Did anything emerge that was also surprising for you? Like sometimes in
Yes, I did. I just mentioned it earlier. One of the most surprising facts was that how um, physicians coming and telling me, especially junior physicians who are just under training, doctors telling me, "Oh, uh, I just wish that we had this kind of training back when we were in college." And they say it's there, but nobody gives attention to it. And one person told me how if I had known this, my approach towards patients and healthcare would have been completely different. In general, we are taught taught to be very objective and not be very sympathetic to go and treat the patient very objectively. But how I wish it was the other way around, because palliative care helps them to be more empathetic and understand the patient more. And he was saying that was very surprising. I thought doctors are, they're aware of it, they are taught uh, in detail regarding it, but when it comes to implementation and all, we know how there are a lot of things doesn't work. There might not be infrastructure, or there might be other problem, but the fact that it's not even uh, considered as considered in their curriculum, that was quite shocking.
Right. And while Research for Everyone series, the primary objective is to simplify everything. But below that primary objective of simplify everything is actually generating empathy. Because when you understand things, when you understand people and their perspectives, you are able to connect and you're able to practice empathy. So, before we end this conversation, Hannah, is there anything that you would like to say to the viewers who would be watching this video?
Shweta, I think you already said that point. One of the biggest lessons that I take from this experience is, we all could be in this situation. Maybe we could be a caregiver. There could be somebody who is, maybe small illness, but there could be a patient in our family. It is in these are all inevitable experiences, and now with pandemic, we are collectively going through it. But the other thing is that it is very important to have an like to listen to people. I mean, just because they are a patient, and doctor says something, that is not enough. Listen to patients, what they want, or listen to caregivers. All of them have their own struggles. So be open by listening and get informed and get more information regarding one particular condition. I think by listening and gaining more information, we automatically become empathetic towards one person's experience or one person's struggle. So I mean, as you said, that's the exact point I also want to end this conversation with. By listening, by informing yourselves of different conditions or different experience of people, by searching out more information regarding it, it would help us to be more empathetic.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences and your findings. And I love the fact that you shared the definitions of all these tough words right in the beginning. Thank you so
Thank you,
much for
thank you.
sharing. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much
thank
for
you.
sharing. Yeah. So to
Thank you
the
so much for this opportunity.
right. Thank you. And to the audience who are watching this, Research for Everyone series is open to anyone who's completed a PhD research. If you want to come on board and talk to us and the audience about your research in a very simple language, demystify a few things, do get in touch with us. Go to guineasplanet.com or write to us at contact@guineasplanet.com. Thank you, everyone. Bye, Hannah. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.